challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Headlines now from the GB newsroom. Israel claims to have killed dozens of militants in direct clashes with Hamas in northern Gaza. The Israeli military says the Hamas fighters were killed leaving a tunnel near the Erez crossing, which had linked Gaza to Israel before the conflict broke out. The IDF says it's been massively bombarding Gaza from the air to ensure the safety of ground forces and, in their words, eliminate terrorist infrastructure. The Gaza Health Ministry says more than 8,000 Palestinians have now been killed. Its spokesperson, Daniel Hagari, once again urged residents to move south for their own safety.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have been calling on residents of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City to relocate southward temporarily. Relocating southward is for their personal safety. We are today emphasising that this is an urgent call. Among the hostages are foreign workers, not a small number of them, for whom the process of identification and reaching families is complicated for us. It is taking us time to build up this picture.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Red Crescent says Israel's told them to immediately evacuate a key hospital in Gaza. The aid agency says some 14,000 people have sought refuge there from Israeli airstrikes in the Al-Quds hospital, in addition to 400 patients. They say raids took place within 50 metres of the facility earlier. Israel has accused Hamas of locating command centres and other military infrastructure in Gazan hospitals, which the group denies.
Don't have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. That's why we refuse the evacuation order. We call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop a humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
It's unlikely any Labour MPs will be sacked due to their disagreements with the party's position on Israel. That is according to the Shadow Science Secretary. Peter Kyle says the party's leadership will probably continue engaging with frontbenchers, despite their disagreements with Sir Keir Starmer. He's echoed the UN's call for a humanitarian pause in ceasefighting and for aid to be allowed into Gaza. But many senior figures would like him to go further and back a ceasefire. And Matthew Perry's family have said they're heartbroken following the tragic loss of their son at the age of 54.
Forget hypnosis. The way to quit smoking is you have to dance naked in a field of heather and then bathe in the sweat of 6 healthy young men.
Or what my father calls Thursday night.
The Hollywood actor, star of the sitcom Friends, was found by police at his home in an apparent drowning. He became a household name as Chandler Bing, alongside his 5 central co-stars in the iconic 1990s show. In a statement, his family have said Matthew brought so much joy to the world, both as an actor and a friend. They added, "You all meant so much to him, and we appreciate the tremendous outpouring of love." Matthew Perry had been open in the past about his struggles with painkillers and alcohol addiction. That's it for the moment. Headliners is on the way next.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, and joining me this blustery Sunday evening to try and make sense of the world and tomorrow's newspapers are two of the most insightful minds still awake. It's Paul Cox and Kerry Marks. Kerry, your sister friended me on Facebook.
No, did she?
That's not weird, is it?
No, that's normal, isn't it?
That's, yeah, the nudie.
Why
photos.
did you find that weird?
I thought it was a little.
How dare she? How dare?
Do you know Kerry's sister?
I do now, very much so. And look at Kerry, look at you.
She's watched you on GB News, saw you come up on Facebook, and said hello, and you're making
well, she
a
said
thing of
very
it.
nice things about you. She's obviously she's very proud of you. And look at you wearing a tie.
She's right.
Here.
Yes, and a jacket will be next, but not if the studio. Not if the studio carries on being this hot.
Do you think you might get sleeves at some point?
Never.
Good for you. OK, well, let's go and look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail, watching the fierce combat like we're spectators in a vast, bloodied Colosseum. The Times, UN warning on Gaza as desperation takes hold. The Guardian, UN says civil war in Gaza is starting to break down. The Telegraph, Hamas blocks exit of foreign citizens. Daily Mail, our best friend. And the Daily Star, whiff, whiff, woof. And those are your front pages. Right, let us begin with the Times, Paul.
Yeah, UN warning on Gaza as desperation takes hold. So just to provide a little bit of context to this.
There's a country called Israel.
Yeah, we're not going to go that far back for the context. But however, this is how the column starts, by the way. For 2 million people inside Gaza, the outside world no longer existed. So what they're pointing out here is as phone and internet signals went, so did all communication, and therefore we don't know what's going on in there, and they are unable to communicate out, is what the Times are saying. But lest we not forget, and I feel like I need to remind people of this, that there was a ceasefire. And there was a ceasefire until the 7th of October.
This is for the people who are calling for a ceasefire. Before, actually, the IDF, the Israeli Defence Forces, have actually even gone in yet properly.
So I wanted to provide that context because there is a great deal of desperation, I imagine, with inside Gaza now, and it shouldn't come as a shock. Yeah. It is something that, I mean, let's not forget that when Hamas committed this terrorist attack 3 weeks ago, they broke the ceasefire. However, Israel could have flattened Gaza within 24 hours had they chosen to. They have the military might to do so. They haven't done. They've allowed for 3 weeks, and they've said to everybody, get out.
Yeah, which is why when people call for a genocide...
Genocides don't normally come with advance warning of we're about to commit genocide. Yeah. This is not genocide.
Also massive
this
increases,
is an act of war.
Massive increases in population over time as well. But, I mean, Kerry...
Genocide is about intention.
Yeah.
The intention to completely destroy an entire culture would be a genocide. What's going on is horrifying, and it's and sure the people in Gaza are desperate. They're without water and gas supplies, but there is water and gas in Gaza. We know that because there's been lots of aerial photos of it, and we know there's loads of gas because there's rockets which require gas that are being fired into Israel. But unfortunately, Hamas are not going to share them out. The leaders of Hamas are right now in their 5-star hotels in Qatar.
Yeah.
This was so stupid. I don't like Netanyahu at all. He's not. I don't approve him.
Not a fan.
But if he was in a 5-star hotel in some Caribbean country right now, I would absolutely hate him with a vengeance. I think how can you be such a coward to be in a luxury accommodation whilst you're ordering other people to and put them in such incredible danger?
He's probably not in a tent, to be fair.
Well, he'll be in Israel. He'll be in Israel. He'll be in Israel where the fighting is going on, and where if it comes through, he'll be affected.
The leadership has never cared about the citizens, and arguably the whole point of this is we're going to get to a story in a second, where it just shows the contempt that they have for ordinary Palestinians. So when people are out there marching, supporting Hamas, it's like, I'm pro-Palestinian. Sure. I want them to be free of Hamas.
Absolutely. I'm sure lots of moderate Muslims get this. What we're seeing is the angry side. And what I'd want to say to Muslims, if you know, it's my position to say to anyone anything, but Hamas hates you. Hates you, hates Muslims, hates Palestinians, all of it. They would not be
a death cult.
They're a death cult. They would not be putting ordinary people in this horrifying, terrifying danger from start to finish, and they did this to do that.
Resources. It's crazy. And also the money, the billions that they've kept for themselves over the years that could have gone to the Palestinian people. Very quickly, there's another story here on the Times. Conflict has accelerated terror threat to Britain. Now, that is obviously a lot more scary for us here in the UK.
Yeah, it brings the war closer to home. Now, I'm not suggesting that we have war in the UK or London, but yesterday afternoon, when I had to pop out of the Battle of Ideas to get myself a new charger, I did skirt round the protest.
I walked through it.
And I deliberately skirted around. I didn't have to, but I deliberately did. And I heard people calling for jihad. And I know that it's been argued in the left-wing press all week that jihad has a number of meanings. But let me tell you, the way they were chanting it, it had one meaning.
They weren't talking about a spiritual struggle.
Or a cuddle. No.
There was no cuddles involved.
All right, well, let's go to the Telegraph, Kerry.
We're going to Telegraph. Let's do this. The Telegraph is this story of Israel war accelerates risk of UK terrorism. Which I just want to add something to that. Is what really increases the risk of terrorism is terrorists who don't seem to get a mention there. But having a Hamas office in the UK increases the risk of terrorism.
And also having Iran sort of pay for these for all of these marches. The Times found out that they're behind.
Of course,
the people. Of course, they are. Anyway, but the big story here is Hamas
has blocked
exit.
blocked the exits of foreign citizens, but it's really blocking the exits of lots of citizens because we've seen, once again, aerial footage of lorries being used to stop people being able to escape. And
blowing up the escape routes. Anyway.
This using people as human shields is not something that Israel says that's been disclaimed. It's been proven through war after war, and the same with the Taliban and so on. And ISIS use the same methods.
They had cultists under the hospital that Israel is trying to say, look, please get out. Because they have to go and deal with the leadership. And they've deliberately chosen a hospital to go there. But yes, so we have Humza Yousaf's, the SNP leader, I believe his mother-in-law is trapped.
Yeah, his wife's parents are in Gaza. They were paying a visit to family members and became trapped as a result. It's unclear to me why they're still trapped, because there have been...
Well, because Hamas literally won't let them go.
So... I was being facetious.
I see, sorry.
So it's clearly Hamas are stopping them. Yeah. OK? It's clear. So he needs to aim any of his anxiety at Hamas.
Of course.
He's in a position of power. There's not a great deal he can do. But one thing he can do is voice the vitriol in the right direction. Absolutely. And so far, I've not seen that.
Absolutely, and from so many others. Let's go to a very sad story in the Mirror, Paul.
Yeah, our best friend, and of course, in the Mirror here, this is the world of showbiz last night paid tribute to Matthew Perry, who was found dead in his hot tub at his home, and it's very sad. It's just genuinely very sad. Now, this is the man who had his troubles. My understanding from reading the stories, just conjecture, is that drugs weren't involved. There was none found on him or in him, and he's just met a very sad and tragic ending. Now, Chandler, to me,
but he did have mental health issues.
He did have lots of mental health issues. So I just don't want to speculate at the end of the day, because this is a guy. Actually, the character of Chandler is someone that really inspired me as a young guy looking to get into comedy. Of course, he wasn't a stand-up comedian, but it was very much a self-deprecating character who had lots of flaws and wasn't afraid.
I mean, I don't think we can underestimate the impact of Friends on popular culture
and me. I mean, I've never watched it. And that's quite an impact. You think of all the free time I had to do other things.
Have you really never watched Friends?
I've seen odd programmes, staying at someone's house.
Is this because you actually had Friends?
I actually don't really care about sitcoms very much. I rarely watch any
one of the
much.
Best.
So
I mean, it was so brilliantly.
It's one of the best ones. I don't watch them.
Well, it was so. I don't think that people really appreciate it, because when something becomes that mainstream, there's normally the idea like you can sort of be a bit snide about it, like Mrs. Brown Boys or whatever. But this was something that genuinely had tightness of writing and married to perfect comedy performance.
But I hear it was all racist and sexist by today's standards, actually.
Sadly, because some people have decided to tar it with that brush because they haven't taken it in context. It's actually meant a generation of kids out there at the moment haven't seen it, and I urge them to see it.
Well, I think actually it became massively popular again when it started streaming, and so I think that it was refound. Anyway, finally, let's finish Kerry with the Daily Star.
The Daily Star with the Daily Star type story. Whiff, whiff, woof, says the headline. And this is that Rover knows when you'll get home because dogs apparently can smell the time. There is some joke about watchdogs that's crying to be happened here, but if the Daily Star didn't throw watchdog in there somewhere, then someone should be fired. Apparently, I haven't seen the story here, but I imagine that the dogs know when it's dinner time. I think all animals know it's dinner time because it's always dinner time,
it's just related to them being hungry. You don't think they do have some sort of extrasensorial
there's a picture of a dog saying, and I'm sure the dog actually said this, I make it time for a treat.
Because they speak very posh, don't they? I make it time for a treat.
Yes.
It's in quotes, isn't it? So it must be a real quote. The Star have probably stumbled across it. There's actually quite a famous or infamous scientist by the name of Rupert Sheldrake, and he is someone who studied telepathy, and this is why he may be infamous. And he used dogs and pets to do that study, repeatable tests, to prove that they could tell when their owners were on their way home, even if it wasn't at a time they normally would. So perhaps.
What do you do with this? Well, you're not going to time anything by a dog, are you?
No, I wouldn't say.
We have watches. We've got clocks.
Or my cat. If I ask Wilson what the time is, he's not once answered.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for your little insight through Google. That's the front pages all covered with our intellectual fluids. A few messages from our sponsors now, but coming up, we've got Labour rebellion, the price of private healthcare, and the mysterious case of Nicola's deleted messages. See you in 2.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie, second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, blessed with the company of Paul Cox and Kerry Marks. Kerry's sister, call me. Right, Monday's iNews first, and Paul, seems like Keir's got a backbone after all.
It appears that way at the moment. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Keir Starmer faces a growing revolt over his Israel policy from shadow ministers after accepting he is unable to fire rebel front benches. This comes amidst the fact that he has, when they call for a ceasefire in Gaza, he seeks. He's saying, he's essentially saying, we don't think there should be a ceasefire on the back of, Israel have the right to retaliate to a terror attack because they're a sovereign country. Now, I think Keir Starmer's in a bit of a bind here, and the reason I do is because obviously Labour, much like a lot of other political parties, but Labour in particular is a very broad church, and Keir Starmer has tried to be all things to all men up until now. Let's not forget that only a couple of
women, if he knows what they are.
Yeah, if he doesn't know what they are. Well, he knows what 99% of them are or something ridiculous like that. However, Keir Starmer has tried to be all things to all men to the outside, but his Labour family is a very broad church, and there are people within there...
You mean a broad mosque? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that what you're trying to say, Paul?
Well, in this particular case, absolutely is what I'm trying to say, Josh, and he finds himself in a bind because this war is not going anywhere, sadly, and he is going to have to either stand by his guns, and if he does, I'll be impressed. But let's not forget that this is the man that we're quite happily seen... Jeremy Corbyn in power only a matter of years ago.
Well, we don't know how happy he was about it, but
well,
yes,
he was happy enough to campaigne for him, and for me that makes him relatively happy because you can take a stand, can't you?
Yeah, I mean,
you can take a stand.
There's an argument here that obviously the risk for Labour is losing, as you say, Muslim votes, and I think I'm not speaking out of turn to say that the majority of Muslims are very much against this war. Well, I'm against this war, but certainly wanting a ceasefire, which is essentially meaning to give Hamas time to regroup. But the point is, do you think that, Kerry, that Keir Starmer would actually alienate more people if he seemingly gave in to that constituency?
I think right now he should be sticking to facts. And what he said that caused so much upset is that Israel has the right to withhold power and supplies right now, which it does. And I've been reading up a lot on rules of war because they're fascinating this week anyway. And it's amazing that the countries got together and made rules of war, but actually they have a tremendous allowance in them. And Israel will be having lawyers sitting next to every bomb before it's sent off to check that everything's legal and that everything they're doing is legal right now. They know what the laws are. Yeah. The problem is this. The problem is if you don't like the laws, then you need to change the law. Yeah. And that means universally. You can't say Israel's not allowed to do this or Israel's not allowed to do that. If you don't like the laws of war, you can say tap-tap bombs. They don't give people enough time to get there. So tap-tap bombs hit the house or the building saying there's a bomb coming. You only get about 3 minutes to get out. It's not enough. Don't like it? Go to the UN and say, let's change the law. All countries now have to have at least thousands of missiles going into their country before they retaliate. Yeah. They have to use tap-tap bombs, which ruins the whole point of a bomb because it's supposed to be an element of surprise. You have to give people warnings to get out. Other countries aren't doing this.
Yeah.
So good. Change it. Change the rules.
Absolutely. But getting back to the story very quickly, this somewhat seems a bit of a free speech issue because you have 11 of his frontbenchers essentially disagreeing with him. He's had a pretty tight hold on the Labour Party now. And the question is he going to bend to their will or not, or let them speak up for themselves?
It's going to test him hard, this. It's going to really put him into a position.
Well, obviously, for Ofcom reasons, I can't say what I... Okay. Anyway, Guardian next. And Kerry, who is paying for private healthcare?
Soaring private healthcare use piling pressure on NHS GPs. So this is the GPs complaining, which... GPs seem to complain a lot, by the way, at the moment. I hear, I know they work hard. They get paid a lot of money, don't they? They do pretty well. I mean, they get potentially. Potentially, there's a decent amount of money in it. It's a lot of work. And what's happening is there's a surge in people using private healthcare, and then the private healthcares send back messages to the doctors saying this person needs a blood test, they need this kind of care, and so on. And the doctors are getting upset about it because some of the things are areas that they wouldn't have agreed with. But as soon as they get these messages from private healthcare, they then have to do something about it. So, in a sense, there's no standards on the private healthcare to say that. Obviously, the private healthcare they want to make money. So they're going to tend to say, yeah, there's a problem here, and we'll look into it. We'll run all these barrage of tests.
So, Paul, it sounds like what we have here is a meeting of the sort of US healthcare system meeting the UK system, where the US is incentivised to spend as much money as possible.
Of course. What is interesting, the way I looked at this story, was that you don't have to be a mathematical genius to realise that if the NHS are doing this work twice, which they appear to be, because 860 GPs are saying...
Sorry, I would just like to say, I feel like this article is that they're not even doing it once.
Well,
that's the problem.
And that's the point. If they're complaining that they're having to double their efforts, then surely that means they can get it right once. And we've heard up until this point they've been unable to do that. So they're telling us now we're spending so much time double-checking these people that have gone private. You know, fair point. If you've got that time to do that, then surely you've got that time to see those people on the NHS in the first place once. They don't clearly have that, and we need to fix
Well, I just want to say, because I know you have more to say, Kerry, but there's some sort of doctors quoted here, GP, and she said, the problem is when we find out their health issues, we can't unknow them. Like it was their fault for being sick in the first place.
Yeah, but then to be fair, what she is saying, I read that piece, and she's saying that sometimes something's coming back that she wouldn't have said in the first place. So what she means is she wouldn't have felt it necessary to run a particular group of tests on someone. And the private care, because they'll humour anything because it makes money and because money's funny. So they'll agree to it, and then they'll run all these tests, and then it goes back to the doctors. What it should be is if it goes to the private sector, if it goes to private health, then it becomes entirely the private health's responsibility. If they want blood tests run or other things, and they now finish the job, see it through till the end.
Fair enough. Let's look at Monday's Independent now, and it seems like the police know precisely what a woman is when it comes to not protecting them.
Well, exactly. Scandal of police failure to protect vulnerable women. So Labour vows to crack down on police failures to keep women safe as campaigners warn lives are being put at risk. And they're being put at risk because hundreds and thousands of domestic abuse victims are being failed because the emergency orders and such like are not being put in place or not being adhered to by the police simply because they don't have the capacity to do so. Because the reality is that there is more crime than there is people to deal with crime. So what you have to do...
We saw that on Saturday.
Well, absolutely. Inevitably, what that means is you have to prioritise, OK? We all know this, so some crimes are less than others. But unfortunately, the optics for the police aren't very good on this, because what we keep seeing, and I know it's not ubiquitous across all police officers and all police forces, but the optics have always been, or have been in recent years, that they're, you know, dancing the Macarena and arresting people for calling them lesbian nanas or misgendering somebody. That's the optics. What they need to get down to is some solid policing. And if we can't prioritise this stuff and get this stuff right, then we are done for.
I mean, yes, but I would also say, Kerry, they have the rules there. As you say, they're not implementing them.
Not implementing them very much at all, actually. I mean, according to government figures, there's only 10,489 domestic violence protection orders applied for in 2022, of which, and that was despite 1.7 million women experiencing domestic abuse.
I believe that I think a woman is killed through domestic abuse every 3 days or 2 days or something like that. I mean, it's an insane number.
I don't fully understand it. I mean, if it was me, I'd just be giving out protection orders all over the place.
Saying that, I know somebody who was accused by their wife who's of domestic abuse, and it wasn't at all, and he's been found innocent. And if that had been an order, you know,
of course, but that's why you need.
I'm not saying that that's not all. I'm just saying that
these are about restraining orders, though, and if you can't implement the restraining orders correctly, you really do increase the probability that person's going to be attacked. And I think you don't get to a restraining order phase unless there's real evidence someone's been attacked.
You believe women first, and then you look into it. And all these things need to be investigated, of course. But the first thing is, someone's in danger, you help them.
No, I agree with that. And also, it's interesting, at the end of the article, they actually also give a dedicated men's advice line as well.
Do they really?
Yes, because that is also an issue. Sticking with the Independent, and what is Nicola hiding, Kerry? The identity of a hairdresser?
Nobody knows.
She's got a rubbish haircut, right?
I knew what you were saying.
OK, fine.
I just ignored it.
Yeah. I'm just jealous that she has hair.
Yes, Nicola Sturgeon's WhatsApp messages. So this is the COVID inquiry. There's actually, I think there's 2 COVID inquiries going on at the moment, isn't there? And this one is asking to see the WhatsApp messages which have all gone missing. And of course, Nicola Sturgeon and Youssef are all saying that they're insisting that they've been cooperating, and they've written out 10 pages of this or 10 pages of that. But I think when we all use WhatsApp, we're used to the idea of it being something between friends, but this is governments talking about policy and so on, and it's odd, I think, in a suspicious way, because somebody knows who deleted all those messages, and presumably someone was given an order to do so.
Yeah, it's more than one person.
Well, you'd think so.
Especially if it's a group message. We don't know exactly what it is, but of course she deleted them. Nicola Sturgeon is many things, but she's not stupid, despite what a lot of people have said, including myself in the past, because if we did see those messages, we'd understand understand what she and her cabinet really thought. And it would have undermined every single one of her policies throughout COVID. I mean, a standard policy was to look at what Boris Johnson was doing and then either do the opposite thing or double down on it, depending on which way the political winds were blowing. So there is no surprise to me. She is no better or worse than Boris or the Tories. They did exactly the same thing. They knew what reality was. They knew they didn't need to do the things that it did, but they just played political games.
I do like her statement here where she says, also her spokesperson said, Nicola will continue to provide all the information requested by the inquiry that she holds. Still. Is this a case, Kerry, of them going, you know what, because they've broken their own rules here. They were not allowed to be deleting that data. They've done it. But is it easier to delete it and face the consequences for that than actually release that information?
Look, we don't know what was in it, so yes, probably. But the governments are always going on about accountability, and then when it comes to the crunch, we don't ever get that. So
the SNP more than most in terms of hypocrisy. Anyway, I mean, that's what people
How many
argue.
inquiries have been worthwhile? Leveson? But even the outcome of Leveson...
But also, what will this even show? There are also the other inquiries looking into the Scottish patients that were taken from hospitals and put in care homes and not isolated and so on. But what we're also going to find out is the damage that isolation did to people as well. We've said, you know, all our lives we've heard the worst thing for old people is isolation. So, you know, that's the other complaint we're hearing, to the other side of the scale.
Indeed. Moving on to the Mail and what has got the Tories so scared, Paul.
Starmer's plan to ban MPs' second jobs is recipe for hiking their taxpayer-funded salaries and driving expertise out of Westminster, Tories say. Now, of course, right, Keir Starmer has said this for years. A lot of the Labour Party have said this for years, actually, and I understand the logic. I understand the rationale behind removing the opportunity for second jobs for MPs. But in theory, that works. But in practice, you do want a broad church of experience, and you need people to continue doing certain things. So if we remove that entirely, and all they are doing is their MP work, which sounds wonderful. And by the way,
they're getting 86 grand.
But I'm not adverse to them getting more, because the complaint is here that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for it. I'm not adverse to them getting more. Whatever. It's a tough job. Whether we agree on it or not on a daily basis, it is a tough job. But however, what is worse for me is careerist MPs. There are 300 of them that their only job or their only aim in life is to be an MP is a worry for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it also means that in a way, I think career MPs is a very good thing. I think it should be taken very seriously. But at the same time, you do end up with people who are immersed in Westminster and don't have jobs or a world outside, which is, you know, the same reason I think priests should have to have sex if they're advising people on it. How do you not know what's going on in the public around you? I do love the wording here. The plan to ban MP second jobs is a recipe for hiking their taxpayer-funded salaries and driving expertise out of the Westminster, Tories say. So it's not like someone's saying this. This is some
well, actually, in the article, it's Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. I believe. Does he have a second job?
It does have a very prominent...
Where's that?
It's kind of here.
Oh, hey!
It's still very passive, isn't it? Because this sentence is a bit like if you said, I'm not allowed another job as well as doing GBNews. I go, well, that's unfortunately going to drive my wages up.
Yeah.
You know, rather than saying, no, I want more pay then.
Fair enough.
So,
well done for making it halfway, but regular viewers will know that we saved some of the best stuff for last. Come back for Omni surveillance, sugar quotas and ADHD blockers. See you there.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows...
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is It's my new teeth. It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these 3.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into this Guardian story. And I'm not sure we can ever have too many cameras, can we, Kerry?
We're heading into... that was so seedy.
What
happened to you?
It was a joke about loving the camera.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so, because it sounded like...
Were you coming on to me, though? I think you were.
Yeah, because you know what? You remind me of my substitute teacher in that outfit.
I'm going to tell my sister to stop watching this if you're going to behave like that. So this is the... Britain is an omni-surveillance society. A watchdog warns Fraser Sampson, who was the... or was just finishing office in the Biometrics and Surveillance Commission. And he said there isn't much not watched by somebody. And then he winked ominously. Doesn't say that.
Yeah,
I've added that. Just we are watching you. And he's warning that we're becoming such a surveillance society. Of course, it's been going on for years. There was all the databases that started under Tony Blair, where the police were keeping fingerprints and so on of people who hadn't been charged for anything. I don't know if you remember Tony Blair. Blair is all it was at the time. And the police are now keeping custody photographs of people who have not been charged for a crime.
3
so
million.
there's around 3 million. Wow. I don't know whether they've made that an exact count, because in that case someone knows exactly what's going on. They were challenged in 2012 with a High Court judge. Now, what he's saying here is they retained on a database, that they've been retained on a database, and the police have said that does not have the bulk delete capability. So I'm going to run that through again. The police said they do not have the bulk delete capability, and then Fraser Sampson replied, well, that can't possibly be a defence because you built it, which I think is a right. I don't know the guy. It's a mic drop, isn't it? He did pretty well with that one.
Why can't they just do select all?
Made this.
Well, do you know what? They definitely can. Because if you can build it, you can destroy it, can't you? There's no two ways about it. They could delete this data. The reason they don't delete this data is because it's very valuable for control. And control and big government...
OK, Lewis.
...is what this story's all about. Yeah,
the ghost of Lewis has entered you.
It's not a ghost. I've been with him all weekend. I think his essence is within me. But that's... sorry. I mean, this is definitely...
How horrible.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something.
I hope you call HR. Good for that.
Do we have HR?
Yeah.
OK, but what I want to say here is I'm surprised this is in The Guardian, because for me, this is them exposing big government. And I'd imagine big government's one of their sort of pillars of truth, because you're looking at me puzzled as this to say, can you not believe that? But, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what The Guardian are all about for me. They're a sort of a Marxist organisation. This was big government. The more you can control someone, the more you can see someone, the easier it is to govern them. And I'm sort of a lukewarm libertarian. I'd like less of this sort of thing.
It's also, though, with AI, it will become efficient. At the moment, it's not. It's terrible.
Well, that's what that's his argument. First of all, he's leaving his job. They always do it when they're leaving their job. They don't do it when they can actually do something when they're in the job. I'm going
What
now.
has the next person
By the
done?
way, here's all the rubbish stuff I never actually got around to doing. But also, as he says, it's AI is the issue. They've had all this stuff for 10, 12 years. Now they actually have the ability to filter it, to utilise
and store it.
And that's... The question also becomes, how dangerous is it, really? What will AI do with it? How will it be used?
Well, I mean, this isn't direct on it, but they're also in the news today is about the face recognition that's being used in as part of this surveillance thing in shops and being used by the police to recognise people's faces, and it's turning out to be a bit racist.
Yeah,
it's turning out that people of colour are being arrested or called by the operation more than other people. Apparently, well, either AI has found out that they do look the same, in which is we've been wrong the whole time, or it's turned out that that AI is racist.
Well, it's usually the programmers that also have a big impact on that. Anyway, interesting religion story in the Telegraph, Kerry, about women. Am I pronouncing that? Catholics?
Yes, Catholic. You did really well.
Okay, yeah. Okay, go. You Jew.
like he's primed you up brilliantly. Just go.
All you did is make me afraid to say the word Catholic.
I haven't heard of this new religion.
There is other religions.
Where did it spring from? Catholic Synod agrees urgent need to expand role for women, but stops short of actually doing anything at all. Like, we're definitely going to do something at some point. They're going to be allowed to put the books out or something like that. So the church leaders call for more theological and pastoral research. I don't know what farmland's got to do with it, but OK, it makes them happy. And they want to research it more. How do you research the effect of having women doing these roles without women doing these roles? You can't say, oh, well, that's gone wrong.
Probably.
Yeah. There's little models that you move around and make them talk. So it's a discussion of women becoming deacons and whether they're capable of doing baptisms, marriages and funerals. But masses might be just a little bit too out of the question for women because it'll probably go awfully wrong, won't it? And soon you're going to have women burying a bride or whatever. I don't know what they even envisage.
Well,
can
they're
be a
good
problem
at, like,
with
giving
women doing
birth
these
to
roles.
Jesus and things like that in the old church here. They say it's urgent. Does that mean, Paul, we're talking like what? They're going to sort it out in 1,000 years?
I would say if the Catholic Church is saying it's urgent,
that's quick.
I wouldn't bet on our lifetime being the time frame.
Yeah.
And the trouble, I feel sorry for religion in these ultra progressive times. I really do. Yeah. But I'm not a religious man. However, religion is a doctrine. You can't escape from that. It's not a philosophy in the same way as that you can keep flexing and adapting. This stuff was literally written in stone at some point, and the doctrine is that you must and you shall.
And women must not be priests.
So, you know, what are we going to agree on here? That God was right now and wrong then, or wrong then and right now?
Well, I think all's no, but I mean, I think the thing about certainly like celibacy within priests, these are human interventions. These are not, and they are relatively recent compared to the history of the church.
For sure.
So
the celibacy thing is weird.
But
Okay, welcome to the
as the Catholics love to say, tradition. There's the Catholics, isn't it?
Right.
sounds like one of their songs.
Okay, The Guardian next, Paul, with a pretty sweet story.
Sweet!
Sorry about that. It's Sunday evening. I've had a long weekend.
Have we all?
It's not showing.
Sugar supply to fight obesity, say campaigners. So, environmental and health experts. Here we go with the experts again. So, UK grows or imports 2.5 times the population's recommended.
Sounds about right.
Intake. It does. It does sound about right. And perhaps you and I, perhaps Kerry.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, I don't.
We're all overweight here.
Yeah,
Let's be real.
Yeah, but you're kind of longer.
I'm not over it. I've got loads to go yet.
I'm against it. I'm against all this type of control. I think I keep saying.
I can tell.
Absolutely. And I can't deny it. I cannot deny it. The physical evidence is presented to us all. Look. At the end of the day, I don't think it's a good idea. I think You can be educated about these things. I'm a lukewarm libertarian, which is a term I keep inventing and saying over the last few days. And the reason I say that is I'm not an absolutist on anything, but I do believe it's up to me to decide what I do with my body. All the evidence is there. And one thing the evidence would suggest is that you can ban alcohol, you can ban drugs, you can ban smoking, you can make it so there's 66...
And it makes a massive impact.
And it has absolutely... It doesn't, though, does it? Because you can still get drugs, you can still get alcohol.
But the fact is, by stopping smoking inside, these have had proven impacts here. It's, you're saying it's your choice. I agree, but when there is an impact on wider society, and we're talking about 60 billion this costs us a year in terms of loss of productivity, in terms of health bills. I mean, Kerry, it is a societal issue, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not my issue. And I think the government did keep their nose out of the sugar bag, a friend of mine told me recently that I've got a sugar thing going on, that I need, whatever, and it's not. For me, it's just I deserve a lot of treats. I've been very good, and I have to reward myself. But it's also, they're saying they're growing to 2.5 times what we need. But what are they going to do? Grow exactly what we need and then ration it out? That's the other choice, and to ration it. So really, what we should do is grow 2.5 times and be very grateful for obese people who've taken up the slack.
It'd be like Wall-E, basically. Right, very quickly, more Guardian now. We can't get enough. Bad news, if you self-diagnose yourself with ADHD, it might take a bit longer until you find out that you don't have ADHD.
Which is really unfortunate for people with ADHD, of all things.
Yeah.
So yes, adult ADHD and autism assessment. So this hasn't been working. It was a new system, a new screening system for adults wanting an autism diagnosis or ADHD diagnosis. Rejected up to 85% of requests for referral since it was launched, adding to concerns from campaigners who want to become a blueprint, like all the UK is going to be doing this. And this is the problem with people who self-diagnose, which I've been told by my doctor that I wasn't in a coma. She said I've got to stop looking things up on the internet, and I was like,
what does she know?
I know, try and explain how I don't get anything done. It's the only obvious reason. We don't know how many. It doesn't say out of these requests have been turned down how many just didn't meet the criteria, of course. So we don't really know. But it seems that it's been just an abject failure.
Yeah, I mean there are a couple of cases in there where they said, because the criteria is actually quite tough to get diagnosed, and I think the question is, why is there so much ADHD now? Because we have gone from zero.
So do you think? I mean, there's some people saying it's a fad.
Well, I'm not saying that, but
that's what you're saying.
Very wise.
But I think
people hate that kind of truth.
I think we need to answer that question, because we've gone to zero to absolutely tons of ADHD in 20 years. So the point is, if everybody's ADHD, then nobody's ADHD, which is not true either. And I mean, I laughed a minute ago. For those on the radio who thought, I just laughed when Kerry said people are trying to get diagnosed with autism and ADHD. To me, it is quite funny, because we've literally got people dying to get diagnosed so they can get an Edinburgh show.
I gotta be honest. I was totally distracted. I didn't hear a word you said. Right, one more station to go before lights out, where we learn to talk, take care of kids at work, live to 100, become a witch, and survive a zombie apocalypse. Phew! See you in 2.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GBNews.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I got a very lovely text in the interval from my wife who told me to comb my hair. Thank you.
But nothing about Kerry's sister.
She didn't mention that. She's very open-minded. Right, let's kick off with Monday's mail. Paul, whatever will these youngsters invent next?
I know, aren't they inventive? I love these stories. I mean, it does make me feel old now, but we've all been there, haven't we? Now, TikTokers invent a new fad. Walking.
Yes.
They have invented walking. So Gen Z influencers reveal how they are doing an age-old practice of going for strolls without their phones, and it's a craze dubbed silent walking, or as we all call it, walking.
Well, we don't call it walking. We don't walk.
No,
the three of us don't do.
I love this.
I mean, it's fantastic in the sense that, you know, every generation believes they've invented something that every other generation has done.
Yeah.
But I think we've now taken it to the degree where walking has become an invention of these people, because, you know, they don't walk without phones and earbuds, and it's a marvellous thing to hear the things around you, particularly so you don't get run over.
Yeah, and they're calling it silent walking because it's particularly walking without a phone or with headphones, and they're like, oh my God, the anxiety! I didn't believe I could do it, and now I found, and you have to get through the first 2 minutes, and then something happens. These young people are telling Gen Xers and baby boomers what the world has been like all of history. Up until a few seconds ago, and very soon they're going to come up with things like you can walk around using maps. We're going to call it an A to Z. This is getting incredible.
You can have a big camera in your hand.
Yeah. It's like remembering a phone number. You know, that kind of thing.
You can go to a concert and actually just look at the people on the stage.
No. Oh, come on, man, that's mental. That's too far. Right, more mail, and with rising childcare costs, is this the future, Kerry?
This is the rise of what have been called mum-ployees, and 87% of the UK's hybrid workers caring for kids while working from home. What we have discovered is that people who work from home are more likely to skive.
To get pregnant.
Who'd have thought? Well, I think that's part of the skiving, actually, but who'd have thought this would ever come out? I thought they'd be really responsible working from home. And the bosses have complained, and one boss has said a parent cancelled a meeting to take their child swimming, which this must shock her. If she's the woman who did this and she's reading this now in the Daily Mail, and she's probably going, that was me. And probably what's happening right now is 1,000 women are reading that and going, they know about me. How did you know? I don't know. It's difficult for me because as an artiste, which I am, going for a swim and going for a walk and having a shower and so on is part of my work.
That is working. You don't have children, so you can't.
It's part of my annual schedule.
Yes, absolutely. I allow time for it.
Let's do a final mail story now about the secret to living to 100. I just have to become a lesbian, Paul, is that right?
You are, mate, aren't you? From chocolate and bacon to staying away from men, the secrets of living until you are 100. according to centenarians. So these are people that have lived forever, which, and by the way, the story does go on to say that it's largely genetics and mostly luck. However, they've given up.
And basically being Japanese seems to be...
Yeah, it seems, yeah.
I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, not board games then.
Carl Pilkington of Ricky Gervais fame used to have a theory that Asian people, particularly the Chinese, never aged particularly well, and they never carry the documents to prove that they're old. They always looked old. That is not true, and this story bears it out because it's not true, but it is just a Pilkington theory, and those who are Pilkington fans will find that amusing. However, who wants to live to 100 is my point. And if you've got to do it without chocolate and men, count me out, Josh.
What a masculine thing. Express next. And why are lots of women buying brooms, Kerry?
OK, this is to do with the census. Modern Britain's witchcraft hotspots revealed as 13,000 declare as witches. Of course, we had the 2001 census where we discovered that 400,000 Britons were related as Jedi. Do you remember back when Britain was fun and people just said silly things?
Good old days.
So a lot of women now are identifying as witches, not feminists.
Let's not go that far.
A lot of them are. A thin line. What it is, some women have found the spells are a little bit quicker and feminism is just a bit too slow for them, and they're unsatisfied. And it's turned out that most of the witches are down in Cornwall, which interestingly has the best weather in the country. So something could be in this. I don't know what else we can read for it.
Your theory is that
they have
the occult.
Look, it's only a little correlation, isn't it?
But it's not. I mean, it's not about the devil anymore, is it? It's more about nature, and it's all.
Why did I bring the devil into it? I don't know at all.
No, but I mean, it's all about goddesses now. I mean, my mum's a witch, self-declared witch, and whatever.
Is she?
Yes, she is.
A white one. And I don't mean colour of skin.
Jewish.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. For clarity, that is not what I meant. But, you know, there's a difference between black and white witches.
She is a white witch, yes, I believe so. I haven't spoken to her since she cast that spell. Finally, we got the star, and this is the kind of research we really need our scientists working on.
Oh, terrifying research reveals how quickly a zombie apocalypse would spread through a city. I mean, come on, hasn't it already? Like you and I may have witnessed one just yesterday.
For sure, yeah.
However, no, I guess this is a serious story because it would take less than 24 hours, or just about 24 hours, it says. And you know what? Bring it on, because I've just about had enough, Kerry.
But Kerry, you're sort of doing cosplay there from.
I am.
From Shaun of the Dead. Like that's what he wears. That's his outfit in Shaun of the Dead.
What? A shirt and a tie?
Yeah, a short sleeve.
So that's cosplay now.
That's what I'm just
If you wear a shirt and a tie and someone else wears a shirt and a tie, you'll be in them.
You've got a bit of red there.
A hell of a stretch, unbelievable. This is what this is nonsense. This is just total utter idiocy. There is no zombie apocalypse, and if there is a zombie apocalypse, it won't play out the way you've decided it will, based on films and so on. Anyway, go up a hill. We know enough about zombies. In every film, take all the supplies you can, go to the top of the hill. They're not good at the hills. They're not good at stairs.
I've never known it. That's not true at all. They can do stairs. They can do hills.
No, the modern ones turned out to be able to do that. No way.
Well, for anybody who's actually interested in the story, these researchers found it took about 7 hours. There we go. The show's nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail, watching the fierce combat, we're like spectators in a vast, bloodied Colosseum. The Times, US warning as on Gaza as desperation takes hold. The Guardian, UN says civil war in Gaza is starting to break down. The Telegraph, Hamas blocks exit of foreign citizens. Daily Mirror, our best friend, and Daily Star, whiff, whiff, woof. And those were your front pages. That is all we have time for. Thank you very much to my guests, Paul and Kerry. Very nice to see you guys. Headlines will be back tomorrow with Simon Evans. It's going to be joined by Leo Kurz and Lewis Schaefer. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Thanks for joining us, and hope you have a nice weekend.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9.